Alright, so I apologize if this is another kind of one of those videos where I'm not really doing any editing because this is the VCF West post-mortem, so to speak, and this is going to be straight off the camera because I got a little bit of the con crud, and by that I mean I'm acclimating back to normalcy after things happened, and we'll go over those in a minute, but I just wanted to talk mostly about the cube, because the cube was the big question on whether it would survive VCF or not, with the modifications I made to it, and Ryan being awesome and letting me borrow this little guy here, which I've since gotten out of it, as you can see here, and I put the stock VRM back in. Thankfully, the cube did, in fact, survive, and it's actually kind of notable that it survived, because what the big thing that happened and why I'm kind of like acclimating back to everything right now is the air conditioning failed at the CHM Grand Hall, and well, that caused some people's computers to start having issues, and some of them died. My friend, a good friend of mine, was running the Commodore Amiga exhibit, and they had an Amiga go down on them. Good friend of mine, Barry, who was right next to him running the Commodore 64s, had a 128D go down on him due to the heat, and it's since been fixed. Another good friend of mine, who was a couple tables down from me, had his G4 Cube there, which was the one that Action Retro, well, not the cube, but the case that Action Retro had on his before he returned it to stock. He had that on, and even though it had better airflow, it threw a hard drive due to, I'm guessing, the heat plus people wanting to play Quake 3 on it. My cube, thankfully, did not skip a beat due to the thing we talked about in the last video, which was that little cooler up top, and a good person in the Discord that we are all in for the Bay Area came by and was actually handing out Pentium badges, so I put one on there just for giggles, and there's actually another sticker on there from one of my Mastodon Mutuals Apple product collection, who is also in that Discord, the Bay Area one. So I think it fits. It's kind of cool. The cube survived. It looked ridiculous. Some people were less than enthusiastic about the modifications I made, but the proof was really in the pudding, and it did survive unscathed, though we had some issues with the Apple Cinema display. This is a studio display, but we had a cinema display, and what ended up happening was I forgot I had put 10.0 on this thing, not 10.2 as I thought I had. 10.0 has very kind of rudimentary driver support. I think it has driver support for the GeForce 3, but I think it also sees this is a G4 Cube. It doesn't actually install it because we were having trouble getting it to like use the full capabilities of the Apple Cinema display that we had brought over. And Garth actually came on by. Everybody should know Garth at this point. Came on by, looked at everything, and saw that there were actually no drivers for the GeForce 3 being loaded in. So the decision was made to burn a couple of CDs at home between day 1 and day 2 and put 10.2.8 on the cube live on the floor. And unfortunately, this kind of blew up in my face because I was able to get 10.2 to install, but once it installed, it did not want to start up. It just kept kernel panicking. So thankfully, I had a backup on hand. It was the home setup for my cube, though, not the VCF setup. So it already had enough games on it to get it through, but yeah, it wasn't the software loadout that I wanted it to have for VCF, but it was a kind of a successful failure. It got back up and started working, and under 10.2.8, which was what was in my backup, it was able to use the Cinema HD display just fine. Or I think it's Cinema HD? I don't know. It's the 22-inch Cinema ADC Cinema display that we had going on the floor. And I'm sorry if my speech is a little weird. My brain is still recovering from all that mess because Again, the AC went out in the CHM, and from what I understand, it's because they've been actually updating the AC systems in the CHM, and the Grand Hall was one of the last to get updated, and they were hoping it would hold out till they got more funding to take care of it, and I guess it didn't, and yeah, that was very unfortunate. But VCF otherwise was pretty fun. I mean, I was there representing Blue Scuzzy, saw a few people, talked Blue Scuzzy with them, handed out some freebies. It was all good. This was a fun little last minute find, though. The Apple Studio display. And good God, I really hate how they recycle some of their product names, because trying to find info on this thing has been a royal pain in the ass. So, it's a 17-inch studio display. Unfortunately, it has a problem, kind of like my cinema display, in that there is a faint line down one of the sides. And it only seems to trigger when there's a certain color in its path, and I'm not sure why that is, but it's easy to ignore, and I've kind of rolled with it for just having an ADC display, because I've been wanting one of these for a minute, and the price has never been right, and I finally got one on the free pile, thanks to Jason, who is the guy behind the Big Mac exhibit at VCF West. Ugh, my voice is getting a little tired here. And he was the one who made the cube cooler, so he has saved my life quite a few times over now, so I do owe him quite a lot, and he is an awesome person. So let's go ahead and start up the G3 or the G4, and I'm starting to really think about this, like how 10.0 interpreted it, because what is quite funny is 10.0 was so jank that it actually thought that this machine had a 1.4 gigahertz G3 in it, which is quite funny. But yeah, let's start her up and get her working. So I'm connecting the back fan now, which you can probably hear going. This is why I didn't connect it before. And I really need to work a switch, an inline switch to this whole setup, so I don't have to keep disconnecting it here to get it running and such. And I think, unfortunately, I don't know why the capacitive power button doesn't work on the display when it's starting from cold boot, but I can just go up here and it'll start up just fine, as you can see. Now, what is really interesting to me is that I actually have this fan set to push air through, and I think I may have gone over this in the last video, but I'll do it again. It's pushing air through, not pulling air out, and it works better somehow because it actually keeps the GPU compartment a lot cooler than if I were to just pull. I don't know why that is, but it works, and it definitely worked at VCF. So I'm going to get you guys just a little bit closer. I know this is kind of jank, but again, I'm trying to single take this, and I really don't want to start the video over because, again, I am too out of it to edit a video at the moment, so that'll have to do. But as you can see, we are in like sin, and the line can't really be noticed. You might be able to see it like right there. It's just barely noticeable. But as we can see, we are still rolling. And go over to monitors. Got our Apple Studio display going along here. Rolling right along. OS 9 thinks the CPU is just some unknown type, even though the drivers are loaded in, as you can see. And we do have a USB audio device. I have a cheap USB audio card, and that's what's providing the audio. I would love to get the stock speaker someday, but that is a grail item that I'm probably never going to actually get my hands on. So let's go ahead and just reboot this thing into 10.2. I do need to upgrade the VRM in this thing to a better, beefier one. I can't just buy one of these anymore because I don't have the money to actually buy one of these. But I think these were discontinued because I actually looked them up and they've just been out of stock. I don't know if that's a recent thing or something, or if they're ever coming back, but yeah, I noticed they're just out of stock now and cannot be purchased. But somebody posted on Mac Rumors a guide to actually like overhaul the stock VRM, put better MOSFETs on it and such. And I'm going to undertake that when I have a little bit more money to play around with because, yeah, I'm going to shout out my coffee a little bit in my links because, yeah, I spent a little bit more money getting to West than I wanted to this year. And, yeah, my bank account is in the red, but was it worth it? Hell yeah. But as we can see, this is the VCF thing. See a good friend, Eat Your Sheep, had some fun with weed, anime, and Discord, and Mixing Miss Faraga won. Somebody, your mom, Dr. Kid Spidey was here, now subscribe. Don't know who that is, but now you've been properly shouted out, I guess. Yeah, 10.2, rolling right along. .4 gigahertz. I do need to put Panther on this thing at some point because I think that's like the best Mac OS X version for these older machines, but that'll come at a later time. I need to actually repair the optical drive again because Eric's Edge actually sent me a replacement belt for the optical drive, and it worked for a bit, but I don't think it was the exact right one because, unfortunately, either just using it enough was enough to get it to start slipping again, or the heat kind of didn't help things combined with it running all the time at VCF, but now it is starting to slip again, and I was actually trying to listen to some music earlier, and I couldn't get the CD back out of it, which kind of sucked, but yeah, what can you do? That's something I'll handle probably when I go to overhaul the rest of the cube, when I can upgrade the VRM later. So, that's really it. That's the setup, and this is kind of gonna be the retro setup for right now. It's gonna suck for when I need to actually like put another machine here that doesn't do ADC, but we'll come to that when we'll cross that bridge when we come to that. And the power light actually isn't blinking; it's just doing it on video because of the refresh rate. Because I know some people might see that and be like, "Oh, it's putting out an error code," but fortunately, not unfortunately, this monitor seems to be completely and totally fine. So, knock on wood. Till next time, though, since I have nothing better to say, I'll see you guys later, and thank you for joining me. Though before I actually do cut the video, I will put some links down in the description for a blog post I wrote on VCF if you want more detail, and also a link to the photo album I took from VCF as well. So go check those out, and I'll see you guys later.